I never imagined I'd be the one standing in this sterile lawyer's office in downtown Chicago, divorce papers clutched in my trembling hands, staring at a future I didn't want but couldn't avoid. But that's where I am now, folks. Right at the edge of a cliff I built myself. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button now and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because this story, it's gonna come crashing down like a freight train through the heart of suburban America. Back when everything was a dream wrapped in the promise of love, family. It was a crisp autumn day in 2019, the kind where the leaves in our quiet Oak Park neighborhood turned shades of gold and red, and the air smelled like pumpkin spice lattes from the corner Starbucks. I, John Miller, a 38-year-old omelette chef at Sunnyside Diner, a cozy spot off Lake Street where locals came for greasy breakfasts and bottomless coffee, had just proposed to Emily Thompson. We'd been together for years already, ever since I met her at a community barbecue during the 4th of July fireworks show in 2013. She was a single mom then, with 2 kids, Alex, who was just turning 4, and Sarah, barely 3. Their dad, Robert Hayes, was this conspiracy theorist type, always ranting about government cover-ups over backyard beers. But he'd bailed early, leaving Emily to fend for herself in that tiny rented bungalow on the edge of town. I stepped in like the hero in one of those Hallmark movies, moved them into my modest 2-story house with the white picket fence and the backyard big enough for a swing set. Alex and Sarah called me Dad from day one, and it felt right. Emily worked as a receptionist at a local dental office back then, pulling in enough to cover daycare while I flipped eggs and bacon for the morning rush. We got married in a small ceremony at the local Methodist church, with Thanksgiving just around the corner. I remember our first family holiday together, the turkey I roasted to perfection, Emily's famous cranberry sauce, and the kids giggling over pie. It was pure Americana. Football on TV, neighbors dropping by with casseroles, and that warm glow of building something real. Flash forward a few months after the wedding. Emily got pregnant with our daughter, Lily. Oh man, that was the peak. We celebrated her baby shower in the spring, right around Easter, with the kids hunting for plastic eggs in the yard filled with chocolate bunnies and jelly beans. Lily arrived in July 2020, smack in the middle of the pandemic chaos. Masks everywhere, hospitals on lockdown, but holding her tiny hand in that delivery room? It was like the world outside, with its toilet paper shortages and Zoom calls. Didn't matter. Our family felt complete. Me, Emily, Alex, Sarah, and little Lily. I pictured barbecues on Memorial Day, carving pumpkins for Halloween, and Santa visits at Christmas. This was it. The suburban dream, straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. But dreams have a way of cracking, don't they? As I sit here in this leather chair, waiting for the lawyer to review the custody forms, I can't help but think back to those early days. Emily and I would cuddle on the couch after the kids were asleep, watching reruns of The Office and planning our future. "John," she'd say, her head on my shoulder, "you're my rock. We're gonna make this work." And I believed her. Hell, I still want to. But life had other plans. Cut to the fall of 2020, the world still reeling from the pandemic lockdowns, masks mandatory everywhere from the grocery store to the drive-thru at McDonald's. Our little Lily was just a few months old, her cries echoing through the house at all hours, piercing the quiet of our Oak Park suburb like a siren in the night. Emily had been struggling since the birth. Dark circles under her eyes, moving slower than usual. I chalked it up to the usual postpartum stuff, you know. the baby blues that every parenting book warns about. We'd read them together during her pregnancy, curled up on the couch with decaf coffee, and those pregnancy podcasts blaring from my phone. "It'll pass," I told her, kissing her forehead as I laced up my work boots for the early shift at Sunnyside Diner. But it didn't pass. One morning in late September, right around the time the neighborhood kids were back in virtual school and the air carried that crisp scent of falling leaves, Emily woke up, gasping. She clutched her arms and legs, her face twisted in agony like invisible flames were licking at her skin. "John, it hurts everywhere," she whispered, tears welling up. "My muscles. It's like they're on fire." At first, she brushed it off. Just a flare-up from not sleeping. Forcing a weak smile as I headed out to flip Denver omelettes for the commuter crowd. But the pains kept coming, wave after unrelenting wave. Widespread musculoskeletal pain, tenderness in her joints, constant fatigue that left her dragging through the day. She'd forget simple things, where she put her keys, what day it was, complaining of this brain fog that made her feel like her thoughts were wading through molasses. Headaches pounded behind her eyes, and even light touches, like Lily's tiny hand on her arm, sent jolts of discomfort. We couldn't ignore it anymore. I took a rare day off, loading the family into our old Honda CR-V and navigating the snarled rush-hour traffic on the Kennedy Expressway toward Northwestern Memorial Hospital in downtown Chicago. The skyline loomed ahead, all steel and glass reflecting the gray autumn sky, while Emily winced with every bump in the road. In the exam room, under those harsh fluorescent lights, the rheumatologist, a no-nonsense guy in a white coat with a clipboard, ran through the questions. "When did the pain start? Any family history? How's your sleep?" He ordered blood tests to rule out other culprits like anemia or thyroid issues, even an X-ray to check for arthritis. "No specific test for it," he explained. "Fibromyalgia is diagnosed by process of elimination, based on symptoms like widespread pain lasting at least 3 months, fatigue, and cognitive issues." "It's chronic," he said matter-of-factly. "A disorder where the brain processes pain signals differently, amplifying them. Not life-threatening, but it can cause fatigue, sleep disturbances, and that fibro fog you mentioned." Emily broke down right there in the car on the way home, sobs shaking her as we passed the familiar suburban strip malls, Target, Whole Foods, the usual haunts. "What if I can't be the mom they need, John?" "The wife you deserve?" she whispered, her voice cracking. I squeezed her hand, fighting back my own tears. "We'll handle it together, Em." That's what our vows were for, in sickness and in health. Back in our cozy 2-story home, with its creaky wooden floors and the backyard swing set rusting under the first frost, reality crashed down like a brutal Midwest blizzard. Emily quit her receptionist job at the dental office. The constant typing and standing aggravated her symptoms too much. I picked up extra shifts at the diner, my arms burning from endless egg flipping, while shuttling Lily to daycare and helping Alex and Sarah with their Zoom homework. Thanksgiving that year was a hollow echo of the joyful one before. I roasted the turkey solo in our cramped kitchen, basting it with herbs while Emily lay on the couch, too exhausted to peel potatoes. The kids picked up on the tension, Alex asking, "Why's Mom always tired?" I'd force a grin, plating the stuffing and gravy. "She's just resting, buddy." Pass the cranberry sauce. To Christmas Eve, snow blanketing the driveway like a white quilt, twinkling lights on every house in the neighborhood. Robert, the kids' bio dad, had fully vanished into his conspiracy world since the pandemic. holed up somewhere, spewing QAnon nonsense online instead of being a father. He'd sent Alex and Sarah generic birthday texts back in the summer, but no holiday cards, no visits, nothing. Emily promised to file for child support through the Illinois courts. Under state law, absent parents still owe, even if they're off the grid. But the forms gathered dust on the kitchen counter amid pill bottles and half-empty coffee mugs. "I'll get to it soon," she'd say, her voice foggy, but the overwhelming fatigue made even paperwork feel like climbing Everest. By New Year's Eve, as fireworks lit up the Chicago sky from afar, our bedroom resembled a makeshift hospital ward. Emily popped pregabalin pills for nerve pain and duloxetine for the mood dips that often tag along with fibro, while I'd rub her back late at night after closing the diner, the scent of grease clinging to my skin. "I love you, John," she'd murmur in the dark. But the intimacy we once shared? It faded like old holiday decorations. Touches became rare, hugs mechanical, her body too sensitive, her energy too drained. I told myself it was temporary, that treatments like physical therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy could turn things around. But as winter slogged into a reluctant spring, with forced Easter egg hunts in the yard, where Lily toddled unsteadily and the older kids half-heartedly participated, the cracks in my resolve deepened. Bills mounted. The mortgage on our house, utilities spiking from everyone stuck home during those endless lockdowns. I was the lone provider now, shouldering it all, and the weight threatened to bury me alive. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of the unraveling. Fast forward to the blistering summer of 2023, when the U.S. economy felt like it was boiling over, inflation clocking in at an average of 4.1% for the year, sending everyday costs skyrocketing. Gas prices had jumped, hovering around $3.50 a gallon in Illinois, making my daily commute to Sunnyside Diner a wallet drainer as I guzzled fuel on the Eisenhower Expressway. Groceries? Forget it. They'd risen by 5.8% overall, with staples like eggs and milk doubling in price at our local Jewel Osco. Our weekend runs to the massive Costco warehouse in the suburbs turned into tense budget battles, Emily adding impulse buys to the cart, while I mentally tallied the mounting total, whispering, "We can't afford the bulk snacks this time." By June, even dining out crept up at a 3.8% annual clip. But who were we kidding? We hadn't eaten at a restaurant since Lily's second birthday. At Sunnyside, the once bustling breakfast joint off Lake Street, business had slowed to a crawl. Tourists skipped Chicago amid economic jitters, and locals cut back on those indulgent weekend brunches. My tips, which used to hit $200 on a good Saturday shift, enough for a family movie night, dwindled to barely $100, leaving me scraping by on base pay. I'd stand there flipping ham and cheese omelets under the sizzling griddle lights, sweat beading on my forehead, watching the clock tick toward closing. "Tough times, John," my boss would say, clapping my shoulder as he locked up. "Hang in there." But hanging in there meant extra hours, my feet throbbing in those grease-stained sneakers, while the world outside our Oak Park home spun into financial freefall. Our modest two-story house with its charming bay windows and the backyard where we'd once hosted Labor Day barbecues now felt like a relentless money pit. The roof needed patching after a brutal Chicago winter storm. Ice dams had caused leaks, and quotes from local contractors ran $5,000 we didn't have. The HVAC system groaned during those humid Midwest heat waves, spiking our ComEd utility bills to over $300 a month. Emily hadn't worked in 3 years now, her fibromyalgia keeping her tethered to the living room couch, wrapped in a blanket, even on warm days. I'd come home exhausted, dropping my keys on the entryway table cluttered with unpaid envelopes, mortgage statements from Chase Bank, credit card notices creeping toward their limits. I'd beg her, night after night, to file for disability benefits. Fibromyalgia can qualify for SSDI, I'd say, pulling up the Social Security Administration's guidelines on my laptop after the kids were in bed. According to their rulings, it's considered a medically determinable impairment if backed by appropriate evidence like widespread pain and tender points, though it's not listed in their Blue Book of Qualifying Conditions. You need medical records from your rheumatologist, pain logs. Most claims get denied the first time, but we appeal, I'd explain, my voice steady but pleading. But she'd wave it off, eyes glazing over. It's too complicated, John. And what if they say no? I don't have the energy for hearings. The process was daunting, requiring proof that it severely limits your ability to work, often needing a lawyer for appeals. But it was our lifeline. Child support from Robert? That was another dead end. He'd ghosted completely, rumored to be living off the grid in some downstate Illinois trailer, lost in his conspiracy echo chambers. Under Illinois law, through the Division of Child Support Services, we could file to establish and enforce an order. Even for absent parents, they'd help locate him and garnish wages if needed. Absent dads still owe, no matter how long they've been gone. The state could pursue back payments until the kids turned 18 or 19 if still in school. I'd print the forms from the HFS website, laying them out on the kitchen table. This could bring in hundreds a month, for Alex and Sarah, but she'd hesitate, manipulating the moment with a sigh. It'll just stir up drama, John. The kids don't want him back in their lives. Can't you handle it a little longer? One sweltering 4th of July, fireworks booming over Millennium Park in the distance, I confronted her in our stuffy kitchen amid the smell of leftover barbecue ribs. The kids were outside with sparklers, Lily giggling in her red, white, and blue onesie. We can't afford this anymore, I said, slamming the latest ComEd bill on the counter. $350 up from last year. Amazon packages littered the counter. New streaming gadgets, games for the teens. File the damn papers, or we're sinking. She teared up. I'm sick, John. You think I want to be a burden? You're making me feel worthless. It was classic. My frustration flipped into guilt, her words twisting like a knife. I stormed out to the porch, the night sky exploding in colors, wondering how much longer I could carry this alone. The pressure wasn't just economic. It was cracking my soul. By Halloween 2024, as the crisp Chicago winds whipped orange leaves across our Oak Park streets and jack-o'-lanterns flickered on every porch, our home had transformed into an emotional ghost town. The neighborhood buzzed with trick-or-treaters in superhero costumes, their laughter echoing like distant memories of joy. But inside our walls, the silence was deafening. I dragged myself through the front door after a grueling closing shift at Sunnyside Diner, the scent of pumpkin spice lattes from drive-through customers still clinging to my uniform, only to find the living room bathed in the cold glow of the TV screen. Emily slumped on the couch, remote in hand, binge-watching true crime documentaries on Netflix, stories of betrayal that hit a little too close to home. Alex and Sarah, now lanky teens at 15 and 16, were glued to their devices. Alex battling virtual foes in Fortnite on his PlayStation. Sarah scrolling endless TikTok feeds of dance challenges and makeup tutorials. "Hey, Dad," they'd mumble without looking up, their voices flat, disconnected. No welcomes, no questions about my day, just the hum of electronics filling the void where family chatter used to be. I'd shuffle to the kitchen alone, surveying the wreckage, takeout containers from DoorDash deliveries we couldn't really afford, crumbs scattered like confetti from forgotten snacks. The sink overflowed with dishes, laundry piled in the basement like a monument to neglect. Night after night, I'd roll up my sleeves and tackle it all, scrubbing pots under the fluorescent light, folding kids' clothes while the house slept, my back aching from the diner's griddle work. Fibromyalgia's toll on relationships is profound. It often leads to reduced engagement and negative impacts on intimacy, with partners feeling isolated as the patient's pain and fatigue dominate daily life. Emily's condition had eroded our connection, turning what was once a vibrant partnership into a one-sided endurance test. To our early days, like that Valentine's Day in 2018, before the diagnosis, we'd snuck away to a cozy Italian spot in the city, sharing tiramisu under candlelight, her hand in mine as we laughed about the kids' antics. "You're my everything, John," she'd whispered, pulling me close for a kiss that lingered. Now, affection was a relic. Our bedroom, with its queen-sized bed and faded wedding photo on the nightstand, felt like a chasm. I'd reach out in the dark, hoping for a touch, a cuddle, but she'd turn away, murmuring, "Not tonight, John. It hurts too much." The pain from fibro amplified even gentle contact, often triggering flare-ups that left her bedridden for days. Reduced energy and interest in intimacy are common, straining couples as health issues and increased responsibilities pile on the healthy spouse. Hugs became mechanical, if they happened at all. Sex? A distant memory, replaced by her exhaustion and my growing resentment. I felt like a ghost in my own marriage, providing, cleaning, existing, but unseen, untouched. The loneliness gnawed deepest during holidays. Thanksgiving rolled in like a storm cloud. I slaved over the turkey in our cluttered kitchen, basting it with herbs while aromas filled the air. But Emily complained of flares, too drained to help peel potatoes or set the table. The kids barely glanced up from their phones, picking at the food without a word of thanks. No family toasts around the table. No gratitude circles like those feel-good Norman Rockwell paintings we'd emulate in better times. Instead, marital instability simmered, higher levels of anger and thoughts of divorce bubbling under the surface, as studies show in fibro-affected couples. Christmas was worse. Robert texted the kids a curt, "Merry Xmas," with emojis, no gifts or visits, his absence a shadow over the tree. Emily shrugged it off. "He's their dad. What can I do?" But her words twisted the knife, making me feel like the perpetual fixer, the one holding it all together without reciprocity. Amid the isolation, Lily was my sole beacon. At 5, she'd toddle over in her holiday pajamas, stars and stripes from last 4th of July sales, climbing into my lap for bedtime stories. "I love you, Daddy," she'd say, her tiny arms hugging tight, a spark of warmth in the cold. But even that highlighted the void. Alex and Sarah, sensing the tension, withdrew further, their teen angst amplified by the household strain. Spouses of fibro patients often face emotional consequences, including loneliness and reduced quality of life across domains. I was crumbling, depressive symptoms creeping in, mirroring the higher rates reported in such partnerships. Nights blurred into a cycle of exhaustion and doubt. Was this love or just obligation? The emotional burden wasn't just heavy, it was suffocating, pushing me toward a breaking point I never saw coming. New Year's Eve. 2024 arrived like a whispered promise of change. The Chicago skyline erupting in fireworks over Navy Pier, visible as distant sparks from our Oak Park porch. I stood there alone, nursing a lukewarm beer from the fridge, the cold wind biting through my flannel shirt as neighbors' cheers filtered through the night. Inside, the house was a tableau of stagnation. Emily dozing on the couch under a throw blanket, the TV droning a Times Square countdown special. Alex and Sarah upstairs in their rooms, lost in late-night gaming sessions, oblivious to the clock ticking toward midnight. Lily, my little anchor, had crashed early after a day of playing in the snow-dusted yard. As the ball dropped on screen, I felt a hollow echo in my chest. No kiss from Emily. No family hugs like in those glossy Hallmark holiday movies we'd once mocked together. This was my life now. A relentless cycle of shifts at Sunnyside Diner, bill payments stacking like unread mail, and an emotional void that swallowed me whole. Was I just a human ATM, existing to cover the mortgage, utilities, and endless Amazon deliveries? The thought gnawed at me, my purpose reduced to paying the bills, as if my dreams of family barbecues and road trips had evaporated into the Midwest fog. To quieter moments, like that quiet autumn drive along Lake Michigan last fall, when the leaves blazed in reds and golds. I'd pulled over at a scenic overlook, staring at the waves crashing against the shore, while Emily sat silently in the passenger seat. "We need to talk, Em," I'd said, my voice steady but laced with desperation. Studies show that fibromyalgia often leads to higher marital instability, with spouses reporting increased anger and thoughts of divorce due to the chronic strain. Half of those affected even report mild to moderate damage to their relationships, sometimes contributing to breakups. This can't go on. You're not filing for disability or child support. I'm drowning here. She turned to me, eyes welling with tears, her voice soft but cutting. "John, I'm trying. The pain, it's every day. You think I want to burden you? If you leave, what happens to us? To the kids?" It was masterful manipulation, flipping my exhaustion into guilt, making me the villain for voicing the truth. Chronic illness like hers disrupts family routines, breeding anxiety, depression, and helplessness in caregivers, often leading to burnout, where the sole provider feels physically and mentally exhausted. I drove home in silence, the dilemma churning. Continue sacrificing or seek freedom? Back on that New Year's porch, the internal war raged. If I left, what chaos would follow? Emily's fibro could complicate everything. In Illinois, divorce is no fault, based on irreconcilable differences, but chronic illness heightens risks, especially when the wife is sick, increasing divorce likelihood by up to 6% compared to healthy couples. Custody for Lily would prioritize her stability, courts focusing on the child's best interests amid parental health issues. Alex and Sarah, not legally mine unless adopted, might face upheaval, their bio dad's absence leaving them vulnerable. Alimony could factor in Emily's inability to work, potentially draining my diner wages further. Yet staying meant more of this deadlock. The emotional toll of being the sole breadwinner, facing stress, anxiety, and resentment that some studies link to adverse health effects over time. Was I modeling sacrifice for Lily, or teaching her to endure unhappiness? The kids deserved better than a home fractured by unspoken grudges. Chronic illness disrupts roles, self-esteem, and bonds, often leaving families in a state of perpetual crisis. I re-entered the house as the clock struck 12, confetti exploding on TV. Emily stirred. "Happy New Year," she murmured sleepily. I sat beside her, the weight pressing. "We need change, Em. Therapy, applications, something." She sighed. "You're always pushing. Can't you see I'm suffering?" The manipulation again, deflecting responsibility. In that moment, the B-tack crystallized. High sin forever, or risk it all for a chance at peace? The question haunted me, a turning point demanding action, even as fear held me back. Spring 2025 bloomed in Oak Park, like a reluctant apology from winter. Cherry blossoms dusting the sidewalks, families firing up grills for early barbecues as Easter approached. But in my world, the thaw brought no relief. I'd hit a wall, my internal storm raging unchecked. One rainy afternoon in April, after a slow lunch rush at Sunnyside where I barely cleared tips for gas money, I ducked into O'Malley's pub, a dim Irish spot downtown with worn wooden booths and the faint hum of Cubs games on the TV. Nursing a pint of Guinness, foam clinging to the glass like forgotten hopes, I pulled out my phone and did something I'd resisted for months. I posted my story anonymously on Reddit's r/relationships subreddit. Feeling taken advantage of in my marriage, wife's chronic illness, no work, no filings for help. What do? I typed it out raw, spilling the details of Emily's fibromyalgia, the kids' inertia, my exhaustion. Hit submit, and waited as the digital world weighed in. The responses flooded in like a Midwest downpour, each one a voice piercing my isolation. I scrolled through them in that booth, the bartender wiping glasses nearby, oblivious to my unraveling. One top comment from a user named BladeRunner982 cut straight. "Sit her down and lay out the reality. She needs to apply for child support and disability. Now. No excuses. The kids are teens. They should handle chores. Is she depressed? Get her treatment, or resentment will eat you alive." It echoed what I'd begged Emily for, but hearing it from strangers validated the ache. To last Easter, we'd hidden plastic eggs in the yard for Lily, chocolate melting in the sun, but Emily watched from the window, too fatigued to join. "I'll help next time," she'd said, her words a gentle deflection that left me cleaning up alone. Deeper in the thread, a reply from False Hope 702 ramped up the intensity. "Blunt talk time. If she's too sick to work, file for disability. If not, get a job. A divorce threat might light a fire. She needs to know she can't use you as a maid and paycheck forever." My stomach twisted. Divorce? The word hung like smoke in the pub's air. Another user, the well-meant one, added compassion. "Have a family meeting. Tell the stepkids you love them. They're old enough for a chore chart. Your wife sounds depressed from the illness. Mandate daily walks for bonding and rhythm. But no change? Get out. Don't get stuck." Depression. Yeah, that tracked. Emily's fog wasn't just physical. Her spark had dimmed, turning our home into a shadow of Thanksgivings past, where we'd carved turkeys together, laughing over wine. Harsh voices piled on, mirroring my darker thoughts. Pretend Fix 8816 suggested, Cut the luxuries, cable, Netflix, unlimited data, split accounts, only transfer what's needed, force contribution. I imagined Emily's reaction. Tears, accusations of cruelty. A deleted user chimed, "Mental illness is one thing, but refusing treatment? She's consenting to the damage." It stung. Emily had brushed off therapy suggestions, saying, "I'm fine, John. Just tired." Manipulation wrapped in vulnerability. Later that evening, back home as rain pattered on the roof, I shared snippets with my buddy Mike over a backyard beer, the grill still covered from last summer's 4th of July flop. "Man, these Redditors are right," he said, echoing the chorus. "File child support. Illinois enforces it even for MIA dads. And disability? She qualifies with fibrodocs. But a voice like few artichokes haunted, 'Divorce her.' The lack of effort and intimacy? Goodbye." High trow built in my chest. Could I really walk? The community painted a path. Be firm, seek counseling, but prepare to leave if unchanged. As Easter loomed with its promises of renewal, their words fueled my resolve, pushing me toward the lawyer's office where this all began. The opinions weren't just advice, they were a mirror to my breaking point. Now, as I sit in this sterile lawyer's office in downtown Chicago, the divorce papers heavy in my hands, the weight of 6 years presses down like the humid Midwest summer we just left behind. The city hums outside, cars honking on Michigan Avenue, the L train rattling past, but inside it's just me, a flickering fluorescent light, and a decision that could reshape everything. The ink isn't dry yet, but the choice is made. I've lived this story, poured it out for you, and it's time to wrap it up with the truth I've learned, the kind that hits like a sudden storm over Lake Michigan. Looking back, my marriage to Emily started with the kind of hope you see in those glossy 4th of July parades, flags waving, kids with sparklers, the promise of forever. But love, I've learned, isn't just a feeling. It's a contract of mutual effort. When fibromyalgia stole Emily's energy, it didn't just reshape her body. It fractured our balance. Studies show chronic illnesses like hers strain marriages, with spouses reporting higher anger and divorce thoughts, as the healthy partner becomes caregiver, breadwinner, and emotional punching bag. I carried the bills, the chores, the kids' needs, while Emily and her teens drifted into a haze of TV screens and excuses. The loneliness wasn't just the absence of her touch. It was the slow death of reciprocity. Marriage thrives on shared loads, financial, emotional, physical. When it's one-sided, it's not a partnership. It's a prison. Flash to last Christmas. The tree lights dim in our Oak Park living room. Lily's laughter the only warmth as she unwrapped a dollar store doll. I'd begged Emily to file for disability. Social Security's SSDI could have brought in $1,000 a month, maybe more with proper medical records. Child support from Robert? Another $500 to $800 monthly, per Illinois guidelines, if she'd pursued it. But her deflections, "It's too hard, John. I'm too sick," felt like betrayal, subtle manipulation cloaked in pain. The community on Reddit saw it. "She's not contributing. You're being used," they said, urging therapy, chore charts for the teens, or a hard line, divorce if no change. They were right. Love doesn't survive on sacrifice alone. It needs nurturing, like a garden after a long Chicago winter. A family isn't a solo act. Emily's illness was real. Fibromyalgia's pain and fatigue are brutal, often linked to depression that saps motivation. But refusing help, from therapy to benefits, left me carrying a load no one could sustain. Caregivers face burnout. Studies show increased stress, anxiety, even health risks when roles aren't shared. I stayed for Lily, for the vows, for the ghost of our early days, those summer barbecues, her hand in mine at county fairs. But staying in a cycle of resentment, that's not love, it's martyrdom. Divorce, as painful as it feels, might be freedom, not just for me, but for Emily to face her reality, to seek the help she's avoided. So here's the call to action. If you're in a marriage where the scales tip too far, don't wait for a miracle. Talk, really talk. Lay out the numbers, the feelings, the stakes. Seek counseling. Illinois has low-cost options through community centers. File those forms, disability, child support, whatever applies. And if change doesn't come, know your worth. You deserve a life where love is a two-way street, not a dead-end alley. For me, it's about Lily now. Showing her a dad who fights for happiness, not just survival. What would you do in my shoes? Drop it in the comments. Your story could spark someone else's courage. Share this video with anyone trapped in a one-sided relationship. It might be their wake-up call. Check out my last video on corporate betrayals for another gut-punch tale, and subscribe for more raw, real stories every week. Hit that bell. Don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching, and let's keep building a community that faces hard truths together.